if you haven't come across my resources before, my name is Sonja Small here. I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa, and I've been living in the Netherlands for over 30 years. I live outside of Amsterdam, and I have passion for art, for creativity, for everything that is expressive. I particularly love helping artists on their journey, helping them develop systems, develop structures around their creativity so that they can build sustainable, doable, enjoyable art careers. And I've come through the coaching that I do, the courses that I've given, I've had in contact with hundreds of artists, and I've seen time and time again that it's not dependent on your education or where you grew up or even what style of art you're making. Success is determined by so many other factors, that also building those structures so that you can make your art consistently, building a coherent style, developing your signature, developing your what theme you love to work in, so that you can recognize there's so many other factors that you can add to your art and your art career to grow. And that really is my pleasure and my joy to share about that. And today's subject, all about artist and creative blocks, is part of it. Because if you're blocked, you really can't flourish, you really can't thrive, you really aren't going to grow or move in your art business. And so this is a subject that's close and dear to my heart, and hopefully it'll inspire you as well. So creative blocks and how to overcome them. That's the theme of this session. I can tell you now that those creative blocks will keep you from doing your creative best. And these blocks, they could be short-lived, can be an hour, a minute, a moment, but they really can also last for a long time. So it's important for you to find ways to get over them. Find ways that you can inspire and infuse yourself so that you can keep that consistently growing in your art business. And it's a given. I've seen some yeses. All artists struggle with this. So it's not something that you're alone in. Maybe you're thinking, oh, why am I staring at this blank canvas or staring at my materials, not knowing what to do next, or really struggling with a certain technique and you wanting to give up, not knowing how to move forward, or really disappointed because you're not making those sales and you've tried everything and you're active on social media and everyone else around you seems to be selling except you, and you feel despondent and discouraged. That really can all paralyze and overwhelm. And so in different areas and different phases also in your creative process, you will encounter these moments. And it's part of a working artist's life, and our challenge also as working artists to find ways to get over them, so that you can grow, mature, strengthen, and of course keep making your art, which is such an important part of your art career, of course. Now, what is a creative block? It's the inability to access your inner imagination, your internal creativity. There's just like a block, and that can be like in a large form, in a small form, it can be a moment, can last for hours, for months, sometimes for years. Some artists, they have such trepidation that they can't even go into their studios. There's something that's just keeping them from being creative. So that just depends on the situation, but it's the inability to get that creativity, which is so important. Your creativity, I always see it like a fountain, a spring bubbling up that you need to get out, because that's just so unique about our profession. It has to come within you. And so if there's a block or something keeping that, then it's very difficult, of course, to make your art. And we're going to be looking at some root causes, and they're different causes, and maybe you'll recognize yourself in some of the examples that I'll be giving. And they can be external blocks, circumstances, or internal blocks. And we're going to be looking at both of those. So if you're joining in, I see people are joining in, then let me just have a look. Anya's here. Welcome, Anya, to the session. Great that you are here, and hopefully everything is moving. Maria says it's stuck, but I think it's back. Yes, so I think we're all streaming and everything is working. So we're going to be looking at those different causes so that you can start recognizing, where those blocks coming from. And I want to just shed a different light. Maybe you are, you have encountered creative blocks and they've become sort of your enemy. They have something that opposes you from creating. But I want to just have that, allow that thought to come up, that you can embrace creative blocks, that there are moments that you can embrace them as your teachers, and ask yourself that question: what can I learn from this moment? Having that introspection, having that self-reflection, learn about yourself as an artist. Who are you? Why are you making your art? And how can it help you grow and mature and get better? And then make that conclusion: what can I change? Whether it's external or it's internal, what can you shift around so that you can regain your creative flow, or find new streams of creative inspiration, so that you can grow as an artist? So that's also my challenge to you, to maybe look at it at a different way, so that you can embrace it as a teacher, so that you can see it more as a gift, as difficult as that is, especially when you are in the middle of it. And the whole part of developing as an artist is having that healthy self-reflection. I teach that too in my courses, and to the artists that I'm coaching: develop a relationship with your creativity. It's not just something that just is there. It's something that you need to understand. It's something that you need to grasp. And we're all different in our creative expressions, and how we experience creative input, and how we relate and translate that into products, into concepts, into images. Really getting an understanding of who you are as a person, as an artist, and what do you need. So it asks self-reflection, asking yourself, why can't I move forward? What is keeping me? We're going to be looking at that. And as you grow and mature, you'll learn how to navigate the ebbs and the flows, because that's just a given. It's not all plain sailing. It's a difficult profession. It's something that's unique from all other professions, is that it comes from within you. So it's so dependent on how you're feeling and your circumstances, how you are, what seasons you're in your creativity, how you'll be able to produce your art. And you'll learn, the further along you are on your artist journey, that you'll start to learn what your strengths are, where you need that extra support, and you'll learn to navigate that. It really is an ebb and a flow, and that those moments where there's that lovely flow, that you just nurture that and really embrace that, and glean from those moments, so that when things are maybe more lean and at a low point, that you have some kind of backup. You have that you have invested in your creativity enough in those up moments, and that when you're in those slums, you can really glean from that. The creative process is a process of learning, of failing, of growing, of healing, getting stronger and braver as you get more experience. That's just how we learn. That's how we've learned how to walk. That's how we've learned how to talk. We learn by making mistakes. We learn about, coming up, running up against the wall. We're falling off our bikes. That's the same with your creative process. You learn by doing, and by doing bravely, by stepping out of comfort zones. But that means that there's that possibility that you're going to be failing. It's that possibility that you're going to be making mistakes. But what can you learn from them, and how can you grow and heal through them and become more experienced? Because failing is the sign of growth. That's where you learn the most, is in those hard moments. As difficult as that may be, when you feel that uncomfortable, when you're uncomfortable with a new technique, or you're working in a different medium, or your size, or the theme that you're working on just makes you feel uncomfortable, but you know that this is something deep down that you want to explore. That's where you're going to be growing. And always just going back to your safe zone. It's a safe zone, but there won't be that amount of growth. And it's good to challenge yourself to press through, but that means that you become running up against some obstacles. We are masters of the unknown. As artists, it's all unknown. We don't have a path all set out, a manual. This is exactly how it's going to be working. Your art is an unknown. you might have in your mind, or you've made a sketch, or you've made a mock-up, or you've got some kind of idea what it's going to look like, but you'll be continually treading into the unknown. Our artists are masters of the unknown. You just don't know. And so you need to become comfortable in that space of not having everything under control. And that has a lot to do with the artist block and the creative blocks that we experience, because we're treading into the unknown. We're treading into the places of being uncertain, and really embracing that as part of your art journey, that you'll have seasons of abundance. You'll have seasons where you are going to sell your work. You're going to have seasons where people are like, whoa, you get reviews in newspapers. And then you have seasons where nothing is happening. It just seems like everything is just dialed down, or no one's paying attention. And maybe there's a season of loss, there's a season of lack. And that this is all part that you have build trust within yourself, that new seasons, that there will be seasons of lack, but there are seasons of abundance coming again. And that's just part of an artist's journey. Just want to cover again the creative curve, because this is a little illustration that is very prevalent with the creatives, is that everything happens in a curve. And your creative curve can last a minute. It can be a project. It could be your creative year. It has all different, can manifest itself in all different situations. If you see like this, the creative process, this is the start point. Hopefully you can be seeing that. The starting point, this is your end point, and it could be a project. So you're starting, you have a collaboration, or you've set yourself a theme, or you have a commission for a client, and you're starting out and you're inspired, you've had your brief, you know exactly what you're going to be doing, you feel confident, everything in your mind and in your heart is working, and you set out full of inspiration, really fun, you love what you're doing. But there come moments in your creative process, your creative year, in your creative planning, in your creative dreams, when things don't work out the way they're supposed to be working out. And you get to this place, how can I solve this? How can I get more income? How can I master that technique? How can I get those colors? How can I work with this medium that just doesn't seem to be working with you? And then we get to the bottom, and that's where so many artists and creatives give up. We start comparing, we start having that inner critic just seems to take over, and we can't move forward. You hate what you're doing. No one will love what you're doing. How can you ask money for what you're doing? All those questions, all those words will be coming up in this end of your creative curve. Many leave, give up, throw away paintings, tear up drawings, throw away art, are really frustrated. But the question is, how can you press through? How can you get to the other side? How can you embrace that hard place to move up the curve? Solving problems. Do you need to take a class? Do you need to get help? Do you need to ask someone? Do you need to be really analytical? Why is this not working? Do you maybe need to stop the project and do something else? Maybe not working in your strengths. Making that analysis, what is good for you. And then, of course, working through that, you'll see you'll be growing. So this is also a growing curve, and then you get to the end and you have your finished product, or you finished that goal that you've set for yourself in the first quarter of the year, or at the end of the year, you really wanted to do something, work on your website, you've found solutions, you've pressed through, and you've come to the other side. And that's the growing curve. So just a reminder of how that is set up. We're going to be looking at internal and external blocks. As I said, there's two we can differentiate in two different categories. All two are linked to the moving parts of an working artist's life. And that's you as the artist, your art, and your art audience. And your block might be in the area of you, the artist, where it starts, and that's usually very much at the root of what you're doing, how you think and how you feel, how, your state of mind. as the artist, but maybe it's your art. Maybe there's, a technique that you're wrestling with. Maybe there's something, a style that you're wrestling with, or, that your art needs some attention, that you need to grow, take a class, really get past the limitations. And then it also could be your audience. The fact that you're not selling your work, maybe you are catering to a wrong audience. Maybe there isn't that revenue stream because the product and the audience aren't making that connection. You need to enlarge your audience base so that your art speaks to a broader group, so that not everyone will love your art. That's also a given. It's very personal. It's an emotional choice. People are drawn to something and not drawn to other things. So it really is a personal thing. So there's different areas in which blocks can occur, because there's so many moving parts of being a working artist, and it has to come from you. So once again, really getting an understanding of who you are as a person and getting really clear about what your art is about. Now, working in a theme in a series really has so many plus points because it gives you a boundary. You tell a person to write a story about anything. Okay, I give you a piece of paper, write the story about anything you want. And I can guarantee you there'll be a little bit of a creative block, because anything and everything is possible. But if you're putting boundaries down and say, okay, I want you to write me a story about the first time that you went to the dentist, or when you got your new pet, your first pet that you got, or whatever, there's a boundary. You're putting yourself into a boundary. You're putting a parameter around your creativity. It'll be far easier to write that story. And it's the same with your art. So working in a theme in a series, for example, really helps to make it more confined, and that gives you the safety to work within a parameter. So these are things that you need to look at. Is the block because you're making it too broad? Are you doing too many art forms? Are you not clear about your style, about where you want to go? So every project is like, it's a huge battle, because you conflicted with so many options. So good to think about, what is at the root within your art form and your audience. Think about, are you connecting your art with the right art audience? And if not, why? Ask yourself those questions. So those are external. Now we're going to be looking at the internal blocks. The external blocks. Whether it's the art, the artist, or the art audience, things can happen from the outside. Maybe you've taken a break, you've been on a vacation or a trip, maybe you've been ill, maybe you've had loss in your life or been through a divorce. Something life-changing happened. And then it's very difficult to find your creative cadence again, because you need to get back into the flow. You need to get back into your routine, making your art. Maybe you've had financial lack, that they haven't been able to pay the bills. You really are disappointed, or you really are have become negative and in the wrong mindset, and that really will create a block for you to move forward. Or a change in circumstances. Maybe you've moved to a different area, different city, different studio, different setting. Maybe you've been disappointed, not getting those sales. All that effort that you're doing, building that website or being on social media, and then not getting that traction, that really can set up a boundary and really can set up a block, because disappointment will hold you back. You think, what's it worth? Why am I doing this? And lack of support. I've seen artists that are the most supported in their direct environment, or maybe through teacher, mentor, coaching, community, are the artists that grow the more solid and have the better foundations than doing everything by yourself. And I know what we're doing is very solistic. Very often you're alone in your studio with your own thoughts and with all those sometimes negative thoughts that come your way. But it's important to find that support base. Have a look and see who can you ask in your surroundings to support you. Just, whether it's just an encouragement, someone that you can just talk to, someone that you can just bring some perspective into your situation. And then criticism, people that maybe don't understand your work, maybe you've been rejected from a show or haven't been accepted for a residency, or that letter that you get that you're not getting that grant, could all be disappointments, and being criticized also for your work. People don't like your work, all reasons. So these are external. And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to respond? And then the internal is more mindset. And I think that's where most of us, lies at the root of most of our blocks, is our mindset. How are we thinking? Those false and limiting beliefs that we have, and that usually are based not on truths. So it's a mental struggle. But it also can be emotional. When you're emotionally not in a good place, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're not looking after yourself, then you just can't give. And creativity and being an artist is all about giving. You're giving generously of your heart, of the things that you feel deeply about. It's very difficult to get it out. So having that self-care is super important. And then the lack of confidence, really not being confident enough to show your work, or comparing yourself with others, or pressure. Maybe you had a successful exhibition and everyone was raving about it, and you sold it, sold many pieces, and then it's like, okay, that's over. Happy about that. And now people are expecting things from you to perform again. And there can be enormous pressure that you put on yourself to have to show again, to, is your next painting going to match the last success? Are you going to be able to do that again? Really finding that place of trust within your creative heart and confidence that your creativity will show up. All things that we need to deal with. As a coach, I've coached many, many artists throughout the years, and I've seen that there are 8 artists blocks that I find, and I put them into different categories. And I just want to say, in no way, when I go through these 8 blocks, do I want to offend anyone. I don't want to judge anyone. This is a lesson of learning. I really believe that the truth will set you free, that if you embrace the truth and really do some healthy self-reflection, you will grow. And that I'll give you permission to come out into the light, come out into, just see things at face value. Because very often you need to go through the ugly to get to the beautiful. You need to go through the discomfort to get to the victory. You need to go through it. And hopefully, as I mentioned, these 8 blocks, these 8 artists resists, you will maybe recognize, maybe it's a combination of a few. These are, very basic categories that I put them in, but maybe you recognize yourself, and then you can do something about it, because then it's out in the open. I've seen the shadow artist, the imposter, the perfectionist, the procrastinator, the victim, the comparing artist, the edger, and the dreamer. I'm going to briefly go through all of these so that you can just, have a look and see where, how does that resonate with you, and what resonates with you. Shadow artists, that's what it says. The word says they're usually super talented people, but they have decided to take on a support role, either an art teacher or working at a gallery, or they are web designers or on supportive roles in the creative industry. But deep down, they know they should be making art. But fear is the big enemy holding them back. So they've taken a support role. They've chosen that it's less painful than facing their own fear or their own creativity with all its complications and vulnerabilities, and rather support other people, that is easier. But they know deep down that they're in the wrong place. They're not living their creative best. If that's you, maybe you are an art teacher, and you know deep down inside you need to give your creative heart more attention, nurture your own art heart, then I really want to encourage you that this is your year to take those steps, and that you can set up systems around your creativity so that it doesn't have to be that vulnerable or that scary, and so they can get your confidence back. So are you a shadow artist? Are you living a lesser, inferior creative life that you know that there's more for you? Then I want to encourage you to venture out and discover more of your own creative heart. The imposter, we all know that feeling that you don't belong. Everyone else is the artist, but not you. What you're making is like crafty and not really art. I can't really call it art. It's very difficult to get the words I'm an artist out of your mouth. A lot of starters have this problem that they think, oh, art is some elite expression that's only for a chosen few and it's out of reach. And you feel that you're imposing, that you don't belong there, and that it's more of a hobby. This really is a limiting belief. You are what you say that you are. And I also encourage my students to make a declaration. If they feel that this is their vocation and they want to turn their creativity into a profession, it starts with the statement of saying, I am an artist. Those are powerful words. You are embracing and you are owning it. And once you own it, then you can start building on that. But when you are still doubting whether you're the artist, shouldn't really be here, it's just my hobby, it'll keep you from living your creative best. Perfectionist, hello, see my hand. Everything needs to be just right before you take action. So you need to have everything just perfect, otherwise you're not going to be doing it. You need to have your website just right, otherwise you're not even going to put it online. Every painting needs to be just perfect, otherwise you're just not going to show anyone or take a class. It needs to be just this certain time, everything needs to match up, and then you're going to take action. Invariably, everything is controlled by fear, because as I said in the beginning, artists are masters of the unknown, that there are so many unknowns that we need to embrace and just accept that's just part of an artist's journey. Being that perfectionist is going to hold you back. I think that's at the root of most of our artist blocks issues, is this need that we think we need to be a certain way, an expected way. And we set unrealistic expectations because we have high standards. We know what we want, and sometimes we don't even know how to get there. And to make a little illustration. Are you still all there, following along? Let's just see. If you have any questions, just put them in the group. Then I'd love to, at the Q&A, we can have a look at that. If you have here, you have your skill. So that's the level of your skill. Maybe you're starting, or maybe you're an emerging artist or an experienced artist. That's the toolkit you've been giving, and that's something that's always evolving. You're taking classes, you're learning. And then here you have your taste. And in between your skill and your taste, there's usually a gap. And if you're a perfectionist, you know what your taste is, you know how you want certain landscape to look, or certain figurative work to look. You feel that. It's intuitive in you. You have developed your taste by looking at art or something that you've been given as through your upbringing and appreciation. You've looked at a lot of creative expression. So you have that taste level is developed, but your skill is lacking. So you continue thinking, well, I'm not going to get there. And that creates a block. I don't know how to do that. So I don't know how to mix that color, or I don't know how to make that form or do that jawline, or how am I going to make that composition? And that really can keep you from developing, and that you just know that you are in process. That perfectionism is something that you need to deal with and come to a place where you can embrace your imperfections, because it's those imperfections that you're going to use as fuel to grow, those failings and the things that you are not quite grasping. And perfectionists are usually great planners, put lots on paper, can get it all structured because that's control. But to actually implement and take steps, it's very difficult for perfectionists. And they never really dive in because there's always that fear. What if I can't do it? What if people are going to laugh at me? What if people are going to, not accept me for the way that I am? It is very vulnerable what we do. Being an artist is super vulnerable because you are exposing part of yourself and you are opening yourself up to the views and the criticisms, sometimes not very smart, and justified criticism. Just people are, we live in this verbal culture where people just say all kinds of things and they are not always kind or well thought out. But that's how what we have to deal with. But I want to encourage you, if you see that this is you, you know that you are dealing with this need to be perfect, to step out of the safe zone and start doing it. This you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your heart, and also you owe it to your audience who are looking, not for perfect, they're looking for real. Procrastinator. Maybe you recognize yourself in that. Tomorrow is your favorite word. I'll do it tomorrow. You get easily distracted. There's, delay instead of dealing. You delaying instead of dealing with those thoughts, obstacles. You can delay because then you don't have to deal with things. And you compare yourself with others. Continue thinking, oh, can't do it that way. I'll wait for tomorrow. And difficult for focus. One moment, I'm just going to get some water. And that's my challenge for you. If you're a procrastinator, start creating focus. And so that you can set boundaries and parameters around what you're doing, setting up a routine, because that holds you accountable. And get clear about where you want to go so that you can move towards it. A victim artist is always someone else's fault, blaming exterior circumstances, your upbringing, that you're not living in the right culture, with the right people around you, no one understands you, you don't have a technique, you don't have a beautiful studio. Always externally, not taking ownership. And this is invariably a different manifestation of fear. One is more perfectionistic, one is more procrastinator, and a victim finds it very difficult to take that ownership because of fear, lacking confidence, and not taking that responsibility. You find that you're blaming other people for the things that you're doing, not doing, or want to do, the circumstances, or can you take on that ownership of your creativity, of your imperfection, of your lack, and what can you do about it? And start putting it out on paper and taking steps to conquer this and to deal with it. Comparison. This is a big thing among creatives, especially now in this Insta age where everything is just posted and you can be totally overwhelmed by all the art that you're seeing around you. And there's always people better and there's always people more successful and there's people that's selling more and they can draw better hands and they can draw better nature and they just got their palette just right and they seem to know the right people. This really can paralyze you when we get into that comparison mode. We're always in the grip of what other people are doing. What are other people? And then we get in, we lack the confidence to show up piece. Maybe you're in an art class and there's always that one person that just seems to get everything right. And also as the teacher's pet. And then you look at your work and you're really not going to show anyone your work because you're comparing your work. And this can be overwhelming. And I can just tell you as well, just find ways to start embracing your artist heart. There will always be someone better than you. There will always be someone more beautiful than you. There will always be someone smarter than you. It's a given. It's when you compare ourselves to others, it's going to limit you in your growth. You need to come to that place that you can embrace who you are as a person. You're unique. There's only one of you. With the billions of people on this planet, there's you. Only you is you. And what makes you, what's your vision on life? What's your way, what makes you happy or sad, or what motivates you in life and what motivates you in your art? There's only one of that. How can you get that up and out on paper, in your paintings, so that you really embrace you and quit the comparison? The edges, they're the dabblers. It's like they never really make choices. They usually have storage units after storage units with different materials, different art supplies, always trying something different, trying something new. And it's good to try something new. It's good to experiment. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying you can't have a lot of art supplies. I love art supplies. It's my comfort. It's my comfort of choice, is going to an art supply store. Too bad we can't go there now. But that's also in the artist curve. That's here you can dabble. So here we always are in that place where everything is working. Because we're trying new things, then you really never get to the core of problems, whether the technique is working or whether you should change your palette or your brush stroke or your edging or whatever you're doing. So edges sort of stay in this zone, never going past. So they are collecting a lot of new things, but not pressing through. And therefore lack focus and don't set boundaries or work in their style. So they never develop a recognizable style. But I really want to encourage you, if you know this about yourself, to make a set. So set yourself a parameter. This is what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 months. I'm only going to be working in crayon, acrylics, whatever genre, but make a choice. And don't give yourself too many exits to try something new, so that you can press through, because that's where the gold is on the other side. That's where you're going to learn, and that's where you're going to grow, so that you can get to the other side and start maturing and growing as an artist. And then the 8th artist is the dreamer. The dreamer, and dreaming is important. We need our imagination. We need to dream. We need to think. We need to imagine our artist life. That's part of it. But if you're just staying in the dream zone, you're not going to grow. You're not going to live your creative best. There is going to be a block, because you need some planning. You need to step out. And it's the dream phase is also this phase where everything is possible, everything is groovy, there's no conflict. There's, in the dream state, everything is working for you. But it's when you come into that real being realistic, like maybe you want to change from profession, you're working in another field of expertise, and you want to be a full-time working artist. You can dream about that, and you think, oh, this, it's all in your mind, it all works. But when you start putting it down on paper, you're going to find obstacles. You need to pay rent. You need to have an income stream. How are you going to do that? How are you going to set out a plan to reach those goals? And if you're a dreamer and you can dream, you have big dreams, then I really want to encourage you, take this year to start setting some realistic goals. Start getting your dream out on paper, start putting it down and seeing, okay, where are the obstacles? Where are the challenges? Where can you press through, and what can you do about it? So that you can make that dream a reality. 3 core before we start that, let's just dive into the group. Hi, David. Great that you're watching. Any of these 8, let me go back and just go through them and just put them. The shadow artist, imposter, perfectionist, procrastinator, victim, comparing artist, edger, or a dreamer. If you dare and are open, could you put in the comments, maybe you recognize something, or maybe a blend of blocks or those resists that are keeping you from living your creative best? Is there anything that you recognize? Just briefly put it in the comments, Is there something that resonated with you? Think, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I recognize that. No, that's something I really need to deal with or work on to move forward. Just throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. The shadow artist, the imposter, not feeling like you are belonging, perfectionist, everything needs to be just right before you're going to take a step. Tomorrow, it's the procrastinator, a victim, it's everyone else's fault except yours. Comparing, so always someone else is better. The edger, trying different things all the time but never really pressing through. And the dreamer, having big dreams but not putting them out into action. Thadian, hope I'm saying your name right, says perfectionist, procrastinator, and comparison. Thank you for being open and vulnerable, putting that down there. And once you know it, that's the beauty of getting it out in the open. You can do something about it, because then every time you think, oh, this is that perfectionist or this is that procrastinator. Okay, what am I going to put on this other side of that to move forward? That you can start identifying. Anya says perfectionist, procrastinating, comparison. Thank you, Anya, for being putting in the comments. I think too that's just encouraging for each other that we're all dealing with these things, no matter where you are on your journey. Whether you are, just starting out, maybe you've been making art for ever, you'll always come to moments where those things will come up and you need to deal with them. And the more you are getting experience, there will be higher expectations. People are putting so much pressure. I mean, if you're just starting out, you're doing it for yourself, there's not that pressure. But once you start getting more and more experience, there comes that added pressure. And it's good to deal with these things so that they don't become those bottlenecks in your career. And building a business around your creativity, it's difficult. Building a business is difficult. Whether you're selling shampoo or whatever, that's already hard. Being an entrepreneur is difficult. But now you are the product, the things that you are making, your creativity that needs to come out of your heart, which you need to put into some kind of business form. That's like a double challenge. And you don't want to be standing in your own way, because that's usually where our limits are. What you're thinking about yourself, that will keep you and will determine how far you're growing. So that's why I love coaching, because I've just seen with the trajectories that I've been through with my students is that they really take steps. They have like, whoa, aha moments, and that they actually have more control over things that the situation that they maybe have considered, that they're not victims, that they don't have to wait for things, that they can start taking action. They don't have to just dream about it, they can do something about it. Okay, so those are the 8. Go back and have a look. And then at the root of all of those 8, I found through my years of coaching as well, is that it's usually fear is the biggest reason we don't move forward. The lack of trust and the lack of confidence. And there's something you can do about them, all 3. But usually those are the root causes of our blocks. And good to recognize what they are in your life. Because what would you attempt if you knew that you couldn't fail? Whoa, just thinking about that. If you knew you could not fail, it was impossible for you to fail. Failing was not an option. It's not in the dictionary. It's just not in your life. What would you be doing? What would you be painting? What would you be saying? Where would you be exhibiting? How would you be, what would you be, how would you be positioning yourself if you knew you couldn't fail? That's something that I want you to think about this coming week. If failure was not an option, what would you be doing? Just some practical exercises for those 3 areas of fear, lack of trust, lack of confidence. We're going to start with the big one, fear. And I want you to write down this week, what are 3 things that you fear artistically? So, I mean, I know maybe you have a spider phobia, you're fearing spiders. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fears that you have artistically. Maybe you find yourself working really small because you really fear working big, because that means more people will see, or it's a bigger statement. Or maybe you work very monochromatic. because you're not quite sure how color works, but you love to work in color, but you fear working in it because you don't have control over your palette. Or maybe you just don't like people looking when you are working. Something that's a private moment when you're creating. You fear when someone comes into your studio or into your workplace, you hide everything, you're hovering over it, no one must see what you're doing because it's not quite perfect. Could be all of that. Or you fear asking money for your art pieces because you think someone's going to laugh at you, who's going to be paying for it? All those things might be coming up. So what 3 fears do you have artistically as far as your art or your art business? I want you to think about it and write it down. And then I want you to take one of them and do it. That's the only way of getting over fear, is facing your fear. And I know it's difficult. Easier said than done. I'm here in my wonderful little sound studio, all safe. It's like getting over a fear can be difficult because there's so many things holding you back. And I want to ask you, if it really is something that you're dealing with, get support. Share with other people, share with someone that you trust, and start getting over those fears. So choose one, write down 3, choose one, and just do it. You're going to feel so liberated. Be sweating, and you'll be huffing and puffing maybe, but do it. Get over those fears, and then set aside time to play. Get in touch with the place where creativity and your artistry is fun. And that's usually how we started out. It's fun. And that's why we wanted to make that fun. And we love being creative. We want to make that our job. We want to make that our profession. That's where we started, the fun part. But then it started getting performance. We started comparing. We started feeling the pressure from people, from gallerists, from curators. We've been criticized. We've been disappointed. And that's when things don't become fun. And then we get into sort of a groove that we're working, against our flow. And that really can block us. So come into a space again where you can set aside time. It's part of your creative routine is playing, not having those critical eyes. I did that in my studio when I was painting a bit more, and just put on music that I really loved, really loudly, and I put all my art materials out there, and I didn't have a set thing. I would just let it be intuitively just playing, getting paint and doing different media, and an hour. Just do that once a week. Just set aside time that you connect with your artist heart and rekindle that enthusiasm. And I can bet you the things are gonna come out. You're gonna be surprised, and just get in touch with that joy again of creativity. Trust, so important when it comes to your creativity. Usually when there's lack of trust, that's when we are blocking. And it has different sides. Trust with you, with your own artist heart, trust with you and your art, and trust with your art audience. So I want you, if this is the root of maybe something that you're dealing with when you're facing an artist block, whether that's small or large, just take some time to reflect. Is it because of something that is within your own art? It's because of who you are as the artist, something that you're dealing with as far as mindset or motivation, or maybe it's your art, or maybe it's your art audience. It can be all one of those, or a combination. Are there areas where you're lacking trust? So maybe you have been undervalued, you haven't been paid your worth, that you don't trust that your creativity is going to pay the bills. Those are all mindset things you might be dealing with. Write them down. Write down 3 areas where you are lacking trust. Whether it's financially, whether that's with your creative heart, that you think, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. What if I can't, deliver the goods when you got a commission or someone's asked you for a project, and you freeze up and you think, what if this painting will never be the same? Starting a new series. Write down where areas of trust. Do you detect a limiting belief? Is there something that you are believing that's just not true. Maybe you hear words, my art will never support me. People don't want to see my art. Nobody likes my work. I don't even like my work. And what if the series doesn't sell? These are all things that will go through your mind. And that's why I really encourage my students to journal, to write things down, to get out, because these are phantom things. You know, this is when the imagination is not under control. When you're thinking all these things, and we all deal with it. So I'm not judging. It's just we all deal with it. It's just that inner critic that wants to just keep us numb and in the corner. Write it down, get it out, and start recognizing. I see you. I see that that you are trying to limit me and what I'm wanting to do, keep me from what I want to do, and put something opposed to that. So put a truth by a lie. So if you think no one's going to buy my work, yes, someone will buy your work. There will be someone that is interested in your work. And if you don't like your work, your own work, why? Are you being that perfectionist? Are you feeling that you're an imposter? Are you comparing yourself? What is the reason? So getting the truth against the lie. Trust all has to do with feeling secure. And that's why I wrote the Working Artist course, is because it's a framework. It's a system. And because there's so many variables, there's so many ebbs and flows, there's so many seasons in your creative journey, that whatever systems or solid foundations you can put in place, you must put in place, because these are like, it's solid. And then all the variables can fit into that. So I want to encourage you to, if you don't have a system around your creativity, to see what can you put in place. Your income, your finances, setting up a routine so you can work consistently, finding some kind of system to do your social media posting, getting your social and your website in order, or a sales channel, building up relationships with people offline, online, so that you can have points of sale, for example, whatever your needs are, or what art form or what your art goals are. So that you're setting up systems around your creativity so that you can trust your imagination and your inspiration will not abandon you. Because that's something we fear a lot, is that what if I can't deliver the goods? What if it's not going to be there? I feel so dry and uninspired. But because you are doing something consistently, because you've set up a routine, you have some kind of goal, you're working on a series or you're working on a body of work, you have a parameter that you can feel confident and have that trust level that it's going to show up. And that's building that relationship with your creative self. So setting up those systems around your creativity, develop that art routine, whatever that means for you, so that you can make it consistently. Get a sketchbook, make daily entries, whether you're just making a little scribble, just making a little marking to keep in the flow. Because it's like creativity is like a muscle. It needs to be working and moving and growing. If you're very stagnant and you just do things in spurts, it's very difficult to start up again. So do some warming up exercises, whatever art form you're doing. And a sketchbook is great for that. It's small, it's containable, it's for you, it's like a journal. You don't have to show anyone. It's not there to be exhibited. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be you making your sketching, art, samples, different thumbnails. So get that sketchbook. You can join an art challenge. That'll help you keep momentum. You can learn from other artists, read biographies, look at some good movies about artists, and you'll see, everyone has their struggles, and that is inspiring, that you're not alone, that you start recognizing the journey, the artist journey, and that'll give you more confidence. And then make a lot of work. Just make, because that's going to build up your trust as well. Then we have the confidence, lack of confidence, big reason why people aren't moving forward, not living their creative best. 3 areas that you might be lacking in confidence that you really don't want to be showing. There's a little nuance difference between trust and confidence. Confidence is coming from in you with your identity, your personality. And what helps with building up confidence is having small wins. So if you're someone that maybe you've set unrealistic goals, like at the end of the year, I want to be a full-time working artist, or I want to make those 26 paintings by the end of the month. Maybe you haven't set realistic goals. So you haven't had wins. You've priced your work too high, or you haven't priced your works at all. You haven't communicated clearly, maybe on your website, what something costs and why it costs a certain amount, so you haven't had sales. These all affect your confidence level. And so it's important to set realistic goals so that when you see you've made a goal and you've achieved that goal, it's going to give you confidence. You'll become more secure in the things that you're doing. And then setting up those boundaries. Give yourself boundaries. That really helps to find your confidence. Just a reminder of what a goal is, and this is the SMART goal setting. We all want to set up SMART goals. So whether that's for a painting, that's for a body of work, or that's for your business, maybe you're working on a project, maybe it's a personal goal that you have, make it specific. If someone asks you your goal, you should be able to, say specifically, they should understand what you're doing. So if they understand, then you understand. So make your goal specific. Your goal should be measurable. You should be able to put it within, if you want to make 20 paintings by the end of the year, you can measure that. You can tick off, okay, now I've made 1, I've made 2, I've made 3. I want to work with 3 other artists. That's measured. So give it a number so that you can tick off. And if you're not achieving that goal, you can make conclusions. Why? Was it not realistic? What can I learn from it, and what can I do different next time? It needs to be attainable. If you want to grow in your confidence, then set attainable goals. And this comes through experience, because when you're just starting out, you still have a little bit of that dreamer. You're not really clued up so much about what is realistic, what is attainable within your time frame. It's really knowing how much time do I need to set up my palette, how much time is it going to take me to do this portrait, this commission, how much time does it take me to make a body of work, how much time does my marketing need, how much time do I need for my social media. In the beginning, it can be very overwhelming, and we can set some really not realistic goals that are not attainable, and we can lose confidence because it's not working. But go and have a look at your goals and see, are they attainable? And if not, why didn't you attain them last month or last year? What are the things that you can learn? What do you need to do differently? Your time management, or lower the bar a bit. And is it relevant? A SMART goal is relevant to your artist journey. So you are going to set goals that are going to bring you closer to your vision, closer to that what you want. So make sure it's relevant and time-based. So think, okay, next month, the end of the third quarter, the end of the year, I want to, so make it time-based. So SMART goals. Have a look at this when you're setting goals, and that you can get those wins to get that confidence and get in that balance between your outer goals and your inner needs. And I think that too, we're talking about creative blocks. Usually there's an imbalance when we are facing these blocks. And having that self-reflection, having that insight into your own needs. What do you need as a person? If you need to have a lot of quiet time, you need to spend a lot of time in nature, you need to, maybe surround yourself with beauty. You need to read, have time to read or to reflect, spend time with friends, family. You need that relationship, one-on-one. Whatever it is, you all have different inner needs. And make sure that your goals that you're setting are in balance with your inner needs. So you're nurturing your own artist's heart. When this is out of sync, we get into trouble. We get into burnouts. We get into being overwhelmed, overtired, undernourished. And then, we have so little control. We have so little resilience. And that's when we can get terribly blocked up. So an artist's life should have a balanced life, the inner and outer. Because if you're burnt out, you won't be able to create. If you're exhausted, you're not being able to give. And it's so much about giving. And when you're not inspired, you won't be able to inspire other people. So what inspires you? Write that down again in your sketchbook, your journal. What nourishes your artist's heart? And what can you do to build a relationship with your creativity? And that's the core of every artist. You need to understand who you are. What's your creativity about, and how can you connect that with an art audience? Building that relationship, and that takes time. It's like everything. You build a relationship with someone else. It takes time. It takes listening. It takes getting quiet, understanding what you need, and then knowing your limits so you can live that balanced life. And that your creative success has nothing to do about it. Doesn't reflect on you personally, and that's very difficult to separate our personality, our character, our well-being from our creative success. So if we're selling a painting, we feel good about ourselves. And if we're not selling, we feel really bad about ourselves. And that is such a not a good scale to build your career on. You need to come to a place where you are okay, whether you are making art or not, whether you're selling art or not, whether people are raving about you or not, you're okay. You are you, and that your creativity is a gift, something that you can unwrap, something that nurtures you, something that inspires you, fills you, and then you can give it to other people. But it's not a reflection of you or your character, whether you are selling or not. If you're not selling your art, you're still an artist. You're still you. So your happiness should not depend on your creative success. And that's difficult because it's so intertwined. We don't want to. Rationally, we can think about this and say, yes, I understand. But to do it is so difficult because it's so intertwined. And that's why that balance is so important. That you learn to separate your creativity from your personality and character, and that you're okay whatever you're doing. A few ways to do this is develop other hobbies around that you don't only make your art. Maybe you have other hobbies you want to develop, so that because we can get so introspective. This is like everything that we're doing, it's just our art. And that's understandable if this is your revenue stream. This is something you love to do, it's something that you're passionate about. So you're there 24/7. You can't sort of not take off that artist part and then move on and go and cook a meal for your family, or go, you always are the artist. You're carrying your gift with you, but it helps to get some balance. Take other hobbies, join other clubs, or join other communities, so that you can take some distance from your creative development. And this also can be inspiring, just to get other impulses, and develop that healthy routine. Nurture a healthy self-image, and this can take time. Maybe you need to get some help, get a counselor, get a coach, do some self-reflection to find that balance. It's a journey. This is something that you can give yourself as a gift, that this is so much part. Is not just, okay, I'm getting up, making my art. It's you. You need to nurture a healthy relationship with yourself and give yourself that gift, so that you can build an art business that supports you personally, and your personal energy, because that's all different for us, your inspiration and your ideal lifestyle. That's what you want to build your art business around, so that you can do it sustainably for the years to come. Having that healthy self-reflection will help you get to the root of the block. So the next time you're looking at that blank canvas, or you can't move forward, or you really feel, oh, this week I'm going to be doing nothing, take that as a learning moment. Why? What are you feeling? What is it that I'm feeling? And write and journal about it, so that you can start recognizing it, and then you can put something opposite to it, so that you can get yourself going. So it helps to journal, to share with other people. Maybe have someone that you trust, that you can talk about, that you can share about, and then find support, either through a coach or a mentor, or someone that you really can support you in your creative endeavors. And then you can surround yourself with affirmation. So you can listen to podcasts or read books, or something that you need to be inspired. So that's positive, so that you can counterbalance all that negativity that sometimes just bombards us. A great quote by David Baylis: "The seed of your next artwork lies embedded in the imperfections of your current piece. Such imperfections are your guides, valuable, objective, non-judgmental guides to matters you need to consider and develop further." So that's embracing your imperfection and using them as your guides, as your help to move forward and grow as an artist. It's a great book. Can really recommend this book. It's called Art and Fear. Great insights into the heart and the life of an artist, and those fears that just keep you from developing and growing. So it's David Baylis and Ted Orland have written this book, and just a great quote in closing, what they've said in this book. I've put it down here for you to read along. "The line between being an artist and his and her work is a fine one at best. And for artists, it feels, quite naturally, like there's no line at all between being that artist and the work. Making art can feel dangerous and revealing. Making art is dangerous and revealing. Making art precipitates self-doubt, stirring deep waters that lay between what you know that you should be doing and the fear of what you might be." So having that fear, that gap between your skill and between your taste. So for many people, that alone is enough to prevent them ever getting started. And for those who do, trouble isn't long in coming. Doubts, in fact, soon rise in swarms. "I'm not an artist, I'm a phony. I have nothing to say that's worthwhile. I'm not sure what I'm doing. Other people are better than I am. I'm only a student, a mother," or whatever, you fill in that. "I never had a real exhibition. No one understands my work. No one likes my work. I'm no good." And he calls it the imagination that's not in control. That we need to find control of our imagination. That's when we start doing the work, making it real what we're doing. Those fears seems to dissipate. It's just by doing the work, showing up, finding a routine, and getting more skill, so that your skill and your taste, the gap starts closing. So good read, and I really recommend this book. Another book called Creative Block, to get unstuck. 50 artists have been interviewed by the Jealous curator. That's Daniela Kreiser. Follow on Instagram, very inspiring feed as well. Have a look if you can get it. I know there's you can get on Amazon, or there's also an e-version, I think, of it. It's from 2014, from a few years ago. But there's 50 artists that have been interviewed about their creative blocks and what they do to get unstuck. And there's some exercises and great quotes, and just very inspiring. So you get to learn about new artists. So Creative Block, I can recommend that. And then in closing, as a working artist, you need to find a place to rest in the unknown. And we need to master the unknown. You build support systems around yourself to support you, and to a foundation for your art and for your art business. Finding cheerleaders, getting that support through people that can affirm you, that can encourage you, someone that you can phone, or someone that understands you, whether they understand your art or not. They understand that you'll need to create, that they need to support you, that you find sources of refreshment and inspiration for yourself. Nurture your own artist heart first, and then you can start giving and building up a safety net also financially, so that you can, you can move with that ebb and flow, and value the small things. Just appreciate, it's not like, only if my art exhibition is a success, that's when I'm going to celebrate. No, every day deserves a celebration. Can you celebrate the small things? Even if they're your failures, you celebrate that you tried, and that tomorrow you're going to be trying again. So having that celebration attitude. That really is my heart. This is sometimes a tough subject, because it's not like, it's something that's really introspective. It's something that you need to dive into your own artist heart for. And sometimes it's a whole journey of, in the whole process of developing and growing. But that really is my heart. Also, why I have the website, why I have the podcast, is to get people into the right frame of mind. Because as you think, so you'll be, and so really to affirm and to encourage. So have a look at my website. There are resources there. There are podcasts that you can listen to while you're working in your studio, just to affirm, just to encourage, to help you forward so that you can move on to live your creative best. That's the URL. If you haven't heard about my course, I quickly want to share about my Working Artist course, which is opening next week, Monday, enrollment. It's an amazing course, even if I say so myself. It's 12 weeks of learning, of growing, of community with other artists, and I go through a whole framework. I give you a system that you can apply to pour your creativity in so that you can build on that for the rest of your art career. Everything from you as the artist, setting up that body of work, how you're going to be communicating that with what kind of audience, what are you going to be using to market, setting up a brand style guide, using the right photography, using the right social media channels, the right words, that you can put yourself out there in a consistent, concise, and a coherent way, which your audience will start recognizing, start resonating, will follow you, and you build your audience base. And that's a wonderful basis for sales, because then you have people that understand, like, are enthusiastic and inspired by your work, and then the sales are organic. So you're not just screaming into the universe, buy my art, buy my art, and that's exhausting. You're finding organic ways that are real and true to you, to your personality. That's the whole goal, and that you can set up a system so that you can build revenue. And I want to invite you. It's an investment, but if you do that investment, you're going to see change. Next year, you will not be in the same place. You will see growth. As you start implementing, you're going to see increase. So next week, Monday, the registration opens. I only open once a year. So if you want to join, then really I want to encourage you to join now. And then the first module, because there's 12 weeks, there's a module dropping nearly every week for 10 modules, and then 2 of them don't have modules. That is extra teaching a week. 1st of March, the first module will drop. And you can have a look on the website. That's the URL, the Working Artist course. All the different modules are explained, what you can expect, and you really will get a solid foundation. And I'm really excited that I'm not doing it alone. I have guest teachers that will be joining me on the Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Dutch time. There is a live session. There's a Q&A, and there's live teaching, either from me or one of these guest teachers, and they're all experts in their field. So David van der Linden is a gallerist. He has an amazing gallery in the south of the Netherlands. He'll be joining the session, and you can ask questions to a gallerist. What do I need to think about? How do I send an email? How do I share my portfolio? What do you look at? How do you, how are you choosing what artists you represent or not? Great way to connect with a gallerist. And that's the same with Estee. She's an illustrator. She licenses out her work. Many products have her artworks on it. How can you license out your work? That's one of the lessons in the course, but you'll have an opportunity to ask her. She's built a flourishing art business, and in the UK and worldwide. She's very active also on social media. You get to ask, how are you doing? You know, what tips do you have? And she's really hands-on and practical. Marika Williams is an award-winning photographer, and she'll be sharing tips how you can photograph your work, how you can use photography to elevate your work so that you can showcase it. Mish is an alumni from the Working Artist course. She was a student last year, but she's a graphic designer, a web designer, and an artist. And she did a virtual exhibition last year online, and she'll be sharing about how, what steps she took, how she uses the online space. Meredith Warren is a watercolorist from the US, and she'll be sharing the artist's heart. She's really a mentor to artists, and how you can nurture your own art heart. And then we have Mitzi Renoy, which is a Dutch fine artist from the Netherlands. She's a master artist, And later in life, she was first working in the film industry, then went to be a full-time working artist, went to study later on in life too, but she's just, did the work, and she's really going places. She's a very inspiring person. She'll share about her artist journey. So this is a write-up, short summary of all the artists. You can also find this on the website. Just, these are people that will really help you and take your art to a new level. So it's, surround yourself with these positive people, and the working artist gives you that opportunity. And I will facilitate that, and I teach through videos and audio lessons. There's tasks and worksheets for you to download. You are welcome to join in. Because you're in this group, this Facebook community, I'm still offering that special discount. Some of you already have signed up. I'm so excited. But if you want to make use of that early bird discount, you have to the 15th. That's when this offer will disappear and it will be the normal price. But with this code, you can, if you go to the URL, which is here, I'll also put it in the comments after the session, then you can go to that offer page, and then you can have that €100 discount, which is a good discount, and it's worth the investment. So that's the working artist course that's going to be happening soon, and it's all teaching 12 weeks to help you on your artist journey. Okay, guys, questions? Anything that's you want me to? Hi, Zandra. Good that you're here. and David, great. Are you? Oh, I see your question. Yes, I'm not afraid of criticism, but I don't know how to deal with rejection. Tough one, David. Yeah, I hear you. Rejection is awful, and it really helps to get that support base around you, and to take that distance from your art and your person, that you are just cool and great the way you are, and that's not a reflection of yourself if people criticize what you're doing. So hopefully the session is helping you for that. And Genre says, I'm afraid of acceptance. I'm afraid of acceptance and what that means for me. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Genre. If you want to add to that, then you're welcome to. I don't know if it's self-acceptance or if people accept what you're doing. Pleasure, Anya. Have a good week. Speak to you soon. And there was a question, and I'm just going to get my notes here. It was in the Facebook group. And why it's so difficult to produce and persist in a routine for your artistic work. So this is all about setting up an artist routine, which is so crucial if you want to consistently make your work. I'm just going to give a short answer to this question. I know many of you are dealing with it, is that we get distracted, and that's why it's difficult sometimes to work in routine, because we get distracted by all kinds of things. But something is only a distraction if we know what we're being distracted from. So when you find it difficult to work in a routine or difficult to focus, it's usually because your goal is not clear. Because you can only be distracted if you know this is what I'm being distracted from. Otherwise, it's not a distraction. So my advice is to make really clear goals for your day. So the night before, write down what you want to do and set out to do it. Invariably, you'll find that you're going to get distracted because there's something that's routine, maybe not such a healthy routine that you've had to deal with. And then make notes why you're getting distracted. What is distracting you? What is keeping you from keeping that routine? You find it difficult to make choices. There are too many things to do. You love being social. You need people around you, so that you can get an idea of why you're being distracted, that you can't work in that routine. And we're all different. Some people are more goal orientated, and some people are more people orientated. So we have different personalities. So that's why that self reflection is very important. What do you need to find a way to make work consistently? What is that motivation that you need? Having a clear dot on the horizon will help, because you think that's where I'm navigating towards that. Because goals aren't like, strict boundaries. They're sort of that lighthouse on the rock, just so that you know that you're moving towards the right direction. And try and get that really clear. And when you're clear about, where you want to navigate towards, then you can see, okay, what's keeping me from moving there? And what's that costing me? And is it worth the cost that it's costing me to not being able to make my art or not getting my work done? And then how can I combat that? Is there someone that needs to help me? They phone me every Monday. Okay, what you're going to be doing this week, hold you accountable. You have an art coach, or you need to just get a good agenda, good planner. What do you need to move towards that? Hopefully that will answer your question. I have a podcast called Turning Your Distractions into Traction. Getting, what's keeping you from your goal and what can you put in place to achieve them. So you can check, I'm not sure what the number of that podcast is, but you can look on my website. All right, guys. We can continue the conversation in the community. You can DM me or place it in the comments. Thank you so much for joining in, and look forward to connecting with you next time for the next session. Thank you for showing up, for being here, and have a very good week. Bye.